In the hushed silence of the Vatican in the year 1452, a pen dipped in ink began to write. The words it formed would echo for centuries, shaping the destinies of continents and millions of lives. This was the moment Pope Nicholas V signed a document known as Dum Diversas. To understand this decree, we must journey to the edge of the known world. On the Iberian Peninsula, the Kingdom of Portugal had just expelled its Moorish rulers. A crusading fervour filled the air, and under the command of Prince Henry the Navigator, Portuguese ships were pushing south, down the uncharted coast of Africa. Their motives were a potent mix: the thirst for gold, the dream of a sea route to the spices of the East, and a burning desire to spread Christianity and combat Islam. But as they set their sights on North African strongholds, King Afonso V of Portugal needed more than ships and soldiers. He needed divine permission. And in Rome, Pope Nicholas V provided it. Dum Diversas was the answer, its Latin title meaning "since formerly" opened a text of immense and terrible power. The bull granted the Portuguese king explicit authority to invade, search out, capture, vanquish, and subdue all Saracens and pagans whatsoever and other enemies of Christ. But it went further, much further. It gave him the right to reduce their persons to perpetual slavery and to take away all their possessions and property. Let's be clear about what this meant. For the first time, the leader of the Catholic Church was not just endorsing a war, he was sanctifying a system of perpetual hereditary bondage based on faith. Saracens meant Muslims, pagans meant any non-believer. They were now, by papal decree, legitimate targets for conquest and enslavement. This was not the end, but the beginning. Just 3 years later, in 1455, Pope Nicholas V doubled down with another bull, Romanus Pontifex. This new decree praised Portugal's actions and granted it an exclusive trade monopoly over all the lands it discovered. It drew an invisible line across the ocean, declaring everything south of Cape Bojador a Portuguese domain. The non-Christian world was being carved up as a divine right. The consequences of these two documents were catastrophic and far-reaching. First, they provided the theological fuel for the Atlantic slave trade. Portuguese ships armed with this papal blessing began raiding the West African coast. What started as a trickle would become a torrent of human misery, justified by the words perpetual slavery. Second, they created the Doctrine of Discovery. This was the legal principle that any land not inhabited by Christians was empty, terra nullius, and free to be claimed. This doctrine became the blunt instrument of colonialism, used for centuries to dispossess and subjugate indigenous peoples across the Americas, Africa, and beyond. So, the story of Dum Diversas is not just a footnote in a dusty history book. It is the story of a signature that set a tragic course. It was a decree that drew a line between us and them, between the saved and the damned, the free and the enslaved. It is a stark reminder of how faith can be twisted to power and how words written in the quiet of a papal chamber can unleash a storm that would rage for over 400 years. All this beginning with a pen, some parchment, and the words Dum Diversas.